I still remember the exact moment I first read the text. My phone buzzed in the quiet of our kitchen, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow across the tiles. I didn't recognize the tone. It wasn't urgent, not angry, not excited, just casual. But the words themselves hit me like a fist. I'm traveling with my first love. Don't be jealous. I stared at it for a long time, my fingers hovering over the screen, unsure whether to respond. My chest tightened. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't try to reason with her. I just put the phone down, walked over to the window, and watched the city move on without me. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to confront her. But instead, I felt a strange, hollow clarity, a recognition that something I had ignored for too long had finally revealed itself. The weeks leading up to that message had been full of tiny, nagging suspicions I had tried to dismiss. Missed calls that she'd shrug off with a laugh. Sorry, it was just work. Texts that she deleted mid-conversation. Oops, wrong chat, she claimed, and I gnawed, trying to believe her. There were nights she came home late, smelling faintly of someone else's perfume, and mornings when she seemed distracted, smiling at a phone screen I wasn't allowed to see. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was overthinking. Maybe I was paranoid. I always wanted to be the trusting one. I wanted to believe in us. But the text shattered that fragile trust. I read it over and over, each word burning a little more into my chest. First love. Those two words made something inside me fracture, a raw, open wound I didn't know how to bandage. And yet, even as the betrayal sank in, I couldn't summon the argument. There was no point. Words wouldn't fix what had already been broken. Over the next few days, I started noticing more. Small things, insignificant to anyone else, but glaring in hindsight. Her phone left unlocked, a name popping up in a message thread I hadn't seen before. A lipstick stain on a collar she swore was hers. Her laughter over the phone, soft, intimate, that wasn't for me. And every time I confronted her, even gently, she turned it around, made my fault, made me feel like the insecure one, the jealous one. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. You start doubting your own instincts, wondering if you've imagined the whole thing. I kept my distance, mostly out of self-preservation. I went to work, avoided our favorite cafe where we used to sit for hours, pretended to be fine. But inside, every memory twisted itself into knives. I remembered our first anniversary, her smile as she looked at me, and suddenly it seemed hollow. The nights we spent laughing on the couch, now shadowed by the possibility she had been sharing them with someone else in her mind. Every gesture, every whispered, "I love you," felt contaminated by deception. Then came the subtle evidence I couldn't ignore. A friend of hers mentioned a weekend getaway she had planned for fun, but she'd never told me. A receipt from a hotel in her purse that didn't match any trip we had discussed. And then, finally, the message trail I stumbled upon accidentally, the text between her and him. Flirtatious, intimate, the kind of words I hadn't imagined she would ever direct at anyone but me. I didn't confront her immediately. I didn't explode. I simply watched, collected, cataloged, until I felt the weight of it all pressing me down. The betrayal wasn't dramatic. There were no shouting matches, no slamming doors. It was quiet, insidious. It was in the way she looked at me differently now, the way she hesitated when she touched my hand, as though trying to remember how it felt to belong to me. When I finally confronted her, it wasn't in anger. It was calm, controlled. I said nothing about the text, nothing about the receipts. I just asked one question. "Are you still with me?" Her eyes flickered with guilt, but she didn't lie. I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered, voice trembling. And for a moment, I saw the woman I loved, the one I thought I knew, behind the mistakes and the lies. She was human, flawed, and profoundly lost. I could have screamed, demanded explanations, tried to make her feel the hurt I carried inside. But I didn't. Instead, I let the truth hang between us like smoke in the air. The betrayal was hers, yes, but the life we had together, the love we shared, didn't deserve to be burned with shouting and blame. I left the room quietly, letting her words fade into silence. The aftermath wasn't cinematic. There were no dramatic gestures of revenge, no public humiliation. There were quiet mornings where I sipped coffee alone, letting the sunlight fill the empty spaces she had left behind. There were walks through the park, the leaves falling, the world moving forward even as my heart stayed tethered to what had been. I mourned the version of us that could never exist again, the dreams that had been entwined with someone else's memory before I even knew. And in the midst of that pain, I found something unexpected, strength, a slow, steady understanding that I didn't need to fight for someone who had chosen another. That love without trust was no longer mine to hold. I started rebuilding, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with the quiet, deliberate patience of someone who had seen the bottom and decided to rise. Weeks later, she returned, eyes wide with remorse, words spilling out in a frantic apology I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. I listened, yes, but I didn't take her back. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I simply let her explain, let her own conscience carry the weight of what she had done. And then I walked away, calmly, knowing that my dignity, my self-respect, was more important than a love that had turned into deceit. The hardest part wasn't her betrayal. It was accepting that the life we built together had been, in some small but real ways, built on secrets she had never shared. And yet, in that acceptance, I found peace. I remembered who I was before all of this, the man who deserved honesty, loyalty, and love that didn't need to be questioned. I still carry the memory of that text, the words that shattered me. I'm traveling with my first love. Don't be jealous. But I no longer read it with anger. I read it with clarity. A reminder that love, even when broken, can teach you how to stand taller, how to walk away without regret, and how to rebuild a life where your heart isn't quietly undermined by someone else's choices. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I simply chose myself. And that, in the end, was enough.